My name is Mirza Yavar Beg, and I'm going to tell you how to attend an interview and get the job. We're talking here about job interviews, so the primary focus will be on that, but this applies to any kind of interview. What's my claim to fame? Why should you listen to me? Because I have been doing interviews on both sides of the table, interviewing and being interviewed, now for almost 40 years. I have written a book called Hiring Winners, which is on Amazon. Those of you who want to read it, get it from there. That book is focused on interviewers, people who are taking interviews. And so I have a very good knowledge of what hiring managers and interviewers are looking for when they're interviewing people. The other side of the table, my experience is throughout my consulting practice, which started in 1984 and we are now in 2022, where every new consulting job is effectively a job interview, because whoever I'm talking to is going to hire me or not hire me based on that one first meeting. And so therefore, I have a lot of experience on both sides of the table, and I thought let me bring that to you, and I hope this will be useful to you in your job interviews. Now, what must you do? First and biggest asset and first and biggest thing is a smile on the face. There is nothing that is more valuable in an interview than a good smile. Please remember that the only mammals which show their teeth when they are happy are humans. All other mammals show their teeth when they are not happy. So do show your teeth. It proves that you are a mammal, it proves that you're human, and it proves that you're happy. Doesn't matter that you don't feel happy. This is the other second big so-called secret. And the second big so-called secret is that it is okay to be frightened, it is okay to be nervous, it is okay to be unhappy, in whatever sense that is, but it's not okay to show it if you are attending an interview. So, smile. Stand in front of a mirror, try it out. And if you think that you look stupid smiling, that's because you probably do not smile enough. So, smile. Big smile never harmed anybody in their lives, and I am witness to that. I am the beneficiary of my own smile. So seriously, have a big smile on your face, number one. And as I said, don't show any anxiety, don't show any fright or nervousness. Let me tell you about two of my interviews. One I failed, one I passed. This was in 1978. I had just graduated from Osmania University. I went to the best school in India, the Hyderabad Public School, and after that I went to Osmania University. I graduated. My BA is in History, Political Science, and Urdu Literature. So I graduated in 1977. I wanted to join tea planting. I was absolutely passionate, and I was absolutely single-mindedly focused on becoming a planter, a tea planter. I did eventually become a tea planter. I did planting for 10 years, but this interview doesn't relate to that one. So I applied, and I got a call from Tata Finlay. It used to be James Finlay, became Tata Finlay, which currently is called Tata Tea. And the interview call was, I was called to Munnar, which is in Kerala. And they said, you must come and spend 2 days. So I had to spend 2 days in Munnar. And the interview said, please present yourself at the High Range Club at 7 p.m. and you must wear a coat and a tie. On my own, I decided that it's probably also a good idea to wear trousers and a shirt, and it turned out it was a good idea. So I landed up in the High Range Club, and we were promptly shunted off to the bar, and I stood there along with, I think there were about 10 or 11 other young gentlemen who were also invited to this interview, all of us in various colored coats and jackets and ties. So the barman asked me, "What will you drink?" So I said, "Lime soda." So he looked at me with a very peculiar kind of glance, and all the others also looked at me, some with looks of pity, some with looks which seemed to say that, oh, so I thought we were 15, now we are 14. Well, I took my lemon soda and I found a chair. I was sitting there, and then suddenly a very large red florid face came in front of me like this. Turned out to be attached to a very large English gentleman who asked me, "Hello." So I said, "Good evening, sir. What's that you're drinking?" I said, "This is a lime soda, sir." "Oh, so you don't drink?" Well, since I was drinking it, and I don't think you can do much else with a lime soda, I decided not to say anything. Then he said, "Tell me, young man, do you play cricket?" So I said, "Sir, the only time I played cricket, everyone else thought it was a bad idea. They all wished I hadn't." "Ah, so you don't play cricket?" I said, "Well, no." He said, "Are you a Mason?" Now, I hadn't heard of the Masonic Lodge, Freemasons. I thought Mason meant somebody who builds walls. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm here in the High Range Club interviewing to be a tea planter. So the job I'm looking at is assistant manager. Why would I be a Mason? So I said, no. He tells me, "You don't have a chance." So that was my beginning. I guess he saw the look on my face. And here's this 21-year-old kid or whatever I was at the time. So I think he felt sorry for me. He said to me, "Well, don't worry, I'm not on the interviewing panel." So I said, "Thank you, sir." But as it turned out, the next day he was proven right, because whoever else was on the interviewing panel, I was interviewed finally by the gentleman at the time, a man called Paddy Lappin. I think Paddy Lappin agreed with this person's, I never got this guy's name. He obviously agreed with this person's assessment that I was not suitable material to be a tea planter. 10 years in tea planting, having done what I did in tea planting, proved all of them wrong, but that was much later. So anyway, that was my first interview. So I'm telling you my experience of interviews because they can be funny. Mostly in hindsight, but funny. Believe me, that for me that was not funny. But anyway, I always tend to take a positive side positive look of things. So I thought to myself, well, I got a all expense paid holiday to Munnar, so why should I complain? I went back home to Hyderabad, and the next week I got a letter, and again an interview call from a company called Harrison's and Crossfield. Later on it became Harrison Malayalams, then it became Malayalam Plantations, then went back to becoming Harrison Malayalams, kind of changed names a few times. So in those days it was called Harrison's and Crossfield. So I got this interview letter. The letter said, "Please come to the West End Hotel," which today is the Taj West End, but in those days it was called West End Hotel. It was a Spencer's property in Bangalore, this such and such address. You will be reimbursed second class train fare and rupees 50 out of pocket expenses. This thing was written on it. Now, my problem was that I had never been to Bangalore. I had no clue where Western Hotel was. And I'm talking about 1978. So there was no Google, and there was no, all the stuff that we take for granted today. None of that existed. I don't even know whether people who invented those things were even born. I mean, I know that when I went to school, Satya Nadella, the current CEO of Microsoft, was 3 years old. So that's how life was. So I never been to Bangalore. I didn't know where the hotel was. I had no clue where I would stay in Bangalore. So I did what, like, at least according to me, what any other sensible person would do. And second class train fare, believe me, if you know Indian trains, you don't want to travel second class or third class. They actually they upgraded the third class by removing it and calling it second class. So that's where we are. So I bought a ticket on Indian Airlines. It used to be called Indian Airlines. Air India had two. Air India was the international airline, and the domestic part of Air India used to be called Indian Airlines. That was the only airline in India at the time. So I bought a ticket on Indian Airlines, Hyderabad, Bangalore, and I booked myself into the Western Hotel. Beautiful hotel. Taj West End is one of my favorite hotels in Bangalore. Beautiful old trees. It was an old building. A very, very nice hotel. So I booked myself. Next morning, I present myself to suite number so-and-so, and I was met by Mr. David McCrarick, very distinguished looking gentleman, slim and tall. He shook my hand. Good morning, Mr. Beg, nice to meet you, and please come in. He took me into the suite. Had a kind of office room, and we sat down. Then he said to me, so how was the journey? I said, very comfortable, sir, very, very. He said, how long does it take to get from Hyderabad to Bangalore? I said, sir, about 30 minutes. He said, what? I said, yes, sir, about 30 minutes. He said, how did you come? I said, I flew. He said, oh, okay. He said, how's your stay here? Is it comfortable? I said, yes, sir, very comfortable. He said, where are you staying? I said, here. He said, no, I know Bangalore. I mean, in Bangalore, where are you staying? I said, I'm staying here, sir, in this hotel. He said, Mr. Beg? I said, yes, sir. He said, did you get our letter? I said, yes, sir, that's how I came here. And I knew what he was after. So I told him, I said, sir, I got the letter. Thank you very much. And I'm not asking you to reimburse my fare or the hotel. He didn't say anything. And then the interview continued. He asked me various things. This is an entry-level job into tea planting. So this was like a general kind of interview. I think the interview was probably more focused for him to see if I spoke English well enough, and what kind of family background, what kind of social background, and so on. It was more in that line. And then he said to me, we are going to send you a letter. You have to report to such and such an estate. The system in planting was that you attended a first interview, which was like a screening, which is what I did. And if you passed that, then you were sent off to an estate where you stayed for 2 days with a manager and his family in the manager's bungalow. And the manager then assessed you, and the family also assessed you. And the wife was very much part of the decision-making process. And they took you to the club, to the local club, and you spent an evening there. And everyone else was looking at you, and then they sent a report, and you got hired on that basis. Again, more in terms of will the person fit in kind of thing. Because tea planting was, and instead, I mean, I'm not, in case any of you jumps to the conclusion that this is because people were snobbish, there's nothing to do with snobbery. It was very, very practical interviewing, because they knew that anyone coming into tea planting would know absolutely nothing about the tea gardens. That was a given. To this day, it is a given. Anyone from outside has no clue what happens and how a tea garden is run. So everything that they will be doing, they will have to learn on the job, and they would be taught. Now, what could not be taught was ethics, values, manners, customs, your social upbringing, whether you knew what to say, what to whom, and so on and so forth. And of course, if you are at a sit-down dinner, then did you know which was the fish fork, and did you know which was which knife and which spoon and which fork to use in a multi-course dinner? All of this was very important. So therefore, that's how the interviews went. So my interview with Mr. McCrarick finished, and as we were closing up, Mr. McCrarick said, Mr. Beg, please give me your air ticket and your hotel bill, and we will be happy to reimburse both. So I got all my money. I then got an interview call. I went off to the estate, came back, and I was appointed as assistant manager on Ambanad estate in Vandiperiyar. But I didn't take that job. I went off to South America, to Guyana, because there was an opportunity to see another part of the world. I want to ask any of you this question. If you had to choose between a job letter, because I got hired in Harrison Williams, I got the appointment letter. If you had to choose between an appointment letter of a job that you interviewed for, and then you had a chance to go and see a country on the other side of the world which you had never been before, and which there was no guarantees, there was no job, there was no nothing, just to go see the country, which would you choose? I chose the latter. I chose to go off to Guyana. I went to Guyana, I got a job there, I got interviewed, I got the job, and I spent 5 years working in the bauxite mining industry. So from tea garden, which is on the top of the earth, I was down below into the mines. I set up a sawmill operation as part of my job. I ran a township. I hunted, fished in the Amazonian rainforest, and I did many absolutely delightfully interesting things. Made wonderful friends, and so on and so forth. And if you want to read about all that, there is a book of mine called "From India to the Indies," which will be published and released in March 2022. If you want to read about my tea planting days, then there is my book. I think I have it. There it is. It's called. This is the book. It's called "In a Teacup," and those of you who know Tamil, it's here. It says "Killiyadu," which is the way the tea is plucked. So this is the book called "In a Teacup." This is also on Amazon, and you might like to read it. So, therefore, having given you this sketch of attending interviews, and I told you that I have written a book on hiring. Okay, there it is. Let me get the book for you as well to show you what it looks like. This is the book. It's called Hiring Winners, and for those of you who want to do interviews, you would be well advised to read that book. Now, what must you do in an interview? I told you already 2 things. Remember that? Smile. Always have a big smile on your face. Number 2, don't show nervousness. One of the ways in which we show nervousness is by mindless activity. Your foot moves, or your hand moves, or something moves. Be conscious of yourself, your whole body. Make sure you don't do those things. Next thing, how do you dress? Do more, not less, but don't overdo it. So wear clothes which are formal. T-shirts, not okay. Slacks, jeans, not okay. Even if you are in America, please understand this. It's always better to do more than to do less. So you don't need to wear a 3-piece suit. Don't overdress, but at the same time, definitely a tie is not a bad idea at all. Or dressing like me is not a bad idea at all. Those of you who dress and practice items of dress which are part of your religious code, please feel absolutely free and confident to wear them for the interview. So if you are a Muslim woman, you wear a hijab, please do wear the hijab and go for the interview. If you are a Muslim or a Jewish man and you have a covering on your head, you have a cap, please have that. Please wear that. If you are a Christian person and you man or woman, and if you are, normally if you wear a cross or something, please do that. Now there are 2 reasons to do that. First and foremost, it gives you confidence to dress in the way of your culture, in the way of your religion. If that is important for you, if you are a Sikh, absolutely wear a turban. Now, so it gives you this this confidence. Second thing is, it is also a screening from you, meaning you are the one screening the employer. So if the employer tells you, and say you are a Muslim, like me, I wear turbans a lot because that's also part of the Muslim dress. So if you are, or you are a Sikh and you're wearing a turban, or if you are a Muslim woman, if you're wearing a hijab, if you are a Jewish person, you're wearing, your cap. Now, my point is that no matter what you are, if the interviewer tells you that, I'm sorry, but you will not be able to wear this in our office. You will have to shave your beard. You will have to take off your turban. You will have to take off, your hijab. Then this is a screening process for you, which tells you that that is not the company that you want to work for. So be very polite and say, thank you very much. I don't think this interview is for me, and get up. 9 times out of 10, they will tell you, please sit down. We were just testing and we'd like to talk to you. Don't mention it again. Just continue and do your interview. And if they don't do that, then thank God and thank your stars that you got out of a company where working for them would have been a daily problem for you, because your religion is important to you, your culture is important to you, and it should be important to you. And there's no earthly reason why you should be forced to change your beliefs, and you should be forced to change your identity in order to suit somebody just to get a salary. Please. So never ever work for someone who will not allow you to be yourself. So that is as far as the dress is concerned. Then the interview is a job interview. So therefore, the primary focus of the interviewer will always be your technical competence. They are hiring you to do a job. They're not hiring you because they like your face. If they like your face, then they won't be hiring you. They just take you, right? You won't have to attend interviews. So they are hiring you for what you bring to the table, technically speaking. So it is very important for you to be technically sound. So do try to anticipate some of the interview questions, and the way to do that would be to do your research. Research the company and then research the specific job that you have applied for, and look at it from the perspective of, within quotes, problem solving. And I'll tell you in a minute why I'm saying that. So look at your job, the job that you are interviewing for, from the perspective of problem solving, and ask yourself this question and say, how can I solve this problem for them? How can I solve this problem for them? Do that homework, because without that homework, you will probably make some fatal mistakes, and you don't want to do that. So make sure that technically you are sound. When you are talking in terms of technology, by all means you can say, this is what I've learned, this is what I've done. But do remember that stuff they know already. That's why they called you to the interview, because they saw that on your CV, they did their research. So just talking a lot about this is what I can do, just like a long list, not a good idea. Remember that for the interviewer, you are probably candidate 71 on that day. So they have heard a lot of people talking the same stuff. For most of us, when we are interviewing, your mind switches off. That's why I tell interviewers, write notes, take notes, sit down and write notes. Because one reason is so that you can at least stay awake. Because listening to interviewing or interview candidates going over and over on the same things, because they are interviewing for one job, is very boring. Now you want to liven that up. If you want them to remember you, I understand this. The purpose of the interview is not to get a job. The purpose of the interview is for them to remember you. The consequences of that remembrance is that you will probably get the job. So if they don't even remember you, you're gone. So you want to say something, you want to do something in a way which is memorable. By memorable, I don't mean you do some crazy dance or something. No. Memorable meaning they must associate you with a solution to their problem. And that won't happen unless you put forward what you can do in a way that looks like solving their problem. And you can't do that unless you know what the problem is. So therefore, that's where your research is so important. Think about what is the problem that you are solving for them, and present it to them in so many words, in that way. You got the job straight away. The moment you do that, you got the job. Be In the interview now, they ask you questions. Listen carefully. Very important. Listen very carefully. And if you do not understand something, ask. Do not have any hesitation about asking. Say, excuse me, I didn't get that last thing you said. Could you please repeat that? Ask if you didn't understand. I don't understand what you meant by that word or phrase, or what you meant when you said that. And then take one deep breath. There is no need. They are not looking for, they're not interviewing, a gunfight or something, an instant shot. No. Take your time, but not too long. Take one deep breath, and then you start talking. And tell them what they want to hear. Stay with the question and be to the point. Concise, precise. Don't beat about the bush. Don't wander. Don't talk about what happened from the time you were born. No. Be precise and answer their questions. Wait for when they say, usually at the end of the interview, they'll say, is there anything else that you would like to ask us? Is there anything else that you would like to tell us? At that time, you may like to tell them maybe one other thing which you did not say in the interview. Even the question, is there something that you would like to tell us, is not an invitation for you to recite your autobiography. It is not. So don't go there. Just listen to the questions, answer the questions clearly and concisely. Usually somewhere they will ask you about your strengths. Now this is where there are two major mistakes that people do. One is telling outright lies. I did this, I did that, I was running this thing and that thing and whatnot. Please don't tell lies. It's not only bad, morally speaking, but it is something that will come back to haunt you. Because if you tell lies, it's one of two options. Either you are like most people, which is you are a lousy liar. You can't tell a lie to save your life, and it will show up on your face. Other option, you are an absolute consummate liar, the world's greatest expert liar, so they believe you. Now what happens? Now they hired you for something you couldn't do because you were lying about that. They hired you for that, and now guess what? You are going to have to do that work. Well, you lied about it. So how are you going to do the work? If you think I am exaggerating, just 2 days ago, one of my very dear friends here, who is a professional recruiter, he said to me that there was one guy who interviewed on a telephone interview, who interviewed in a female voice for his wife. Can you believe this? Of course he got caught. And not only did he get caught, but he also, his wife got they put a marker so that now if she applies again to a job in that industry, it will just be rejected. Don't tell lies. Speak the truth. What you know to do, speak about that confidently. What you don't know to do, say confidently and clearly, I'm sorry, that is not something that I have ever done. That is not something that I know how to do. You can add and say, but I'm willing to learn, so I'm happy to learn how to do that. But right now, if you're asking me, can I do this? No, I can't. That will be appreciated. Your honesty will be appreciated. In this context also, please, for God's sake, never ever use these phrases which people use all the time. To be honest, I want to be honest with you. Please, these are stupid phrases. First of all, you should always be honest. So where's the question of saying to be honest? I want to be honest with you, meaning you are saying that normally I'm not honest, but with you I want to be honest. Please, do not say things like this. In my humble opinion. First of all, anybody who's saying in my humble opinion is not being humble. And it's one of the great redundancies of phrase. I saw with my own eyes. I heard with my own ears. Whose ears do you normally hear with? Whose eyes do you normally see with? I saw, I heard. In my opinion is not even necessary to say, whether humble or otherwise. Just express your opinion. We know it's your opinion. So, these phrases, redundancies, get them out of your vocabulary. Don't ever use them. So, answer the questions. Strengths. They'll ask you for strengths. State them clearly, whatever your strengths are. Many times people, they have these very generalized things. My strength is that I will work for the best of for the good of the company. My strength is that I am a great team leader. Okay, no problem with saying that. But be prepared to substantiate that with some incident in your life where you were a great team leader, and you can show that from the story that you have to tell. Because this is what any good interviewer will do. Whatever you say, the interviewer will say, well, thank you very much for that. Can you tell me about an incident in your life where you were a great team leader? And they will keep quiet. You will have to tell the story. So before the interview, in your preparation for the interview, in the research you do in the company and so on and so forth, also think about the strengths, your strengths that you are going to be talking about, and have your stories ready. Remember, a story that you made up will stand out clearly as a made up story. So speak the truth, actual things from your life. If you did it, it is there, just recollect that and present it. Again, be concise, be direct. It's not an opportunity to recite your life story. Similarly, they will ask you, what do you see as your weaknesses? Once again, don't try to embellish. For example, people say, oh, you see, sir, my weakness is that I'm very task-oriented. No, being task-oriented is not a weakness. Whatever is your actual weakness, say it in so many words. Don't be apologetic about it, just say it. Fogging is one of the most common things that people do in interviews, and any interviewer worth the name can catch fogging 50 feet away. Right? And that will put up a red flag in their mind, and you are as good as dead. Don't try that. Don't try fogging. Don't tell lies. Don't embellish. Final couple of things. One, humor as a normal part of your conversation is fine. But telling jokes, making everything into a laughing thing, you are there for a serious purpose, which is a job interview. So don't turn it into a stand-up comedy. It's not. People will laugh. But the question is, that they won't ask themselves is this somebody we want to hire? So, do your homework. And very, very important, your language. Two absolutely critical no-nos. One is any form of slang or bad language or profanity. Right? I don't want to use profanity to tell you what is profanity. You know what it is. Don't use it. Absolutely do not use any slang or any profanity when you are speaking in the interview, and the only way you can be sure of that is if you take it out of your system anyway. It's a lousy thing to do, don't do it. Second thing is, your language with respect to racism, with respect to the way you refer to minorities and things like that, also can be an absolutely make or break in an interview. So be very, very clear in your mind. When you are speaking, do not disparage, do not speak in a tone or use words which are discriminatory in nature. Once again, the only way you will do that is if that is not your nature. If you are a racist, if you are a casteist, if you are somebody who discriminates amongst people, between people on the basis of their skin color or their gender or their beliefs or their religion and whatnot, if that is inside you, believe me, it will come out on your tongue. And any organization worth the name will not hire you. If you are that kind of a person and you get hired, thank you very much. That's good. You are with the kind of people that like that stuff. Definitely, it is not something that will take you places on a global scale. Right? Another very important thing is, normally in a job interview this will not come up, but if it comes up, be clear about how you're going to answer it, which I'm referring to questions about politics. Normally they won't ask that, but if somebody asks that, I would suggest that there's no harm. If they ask you a question, then there's no harm in stating what your politics is, but be clear in your mind what that is. I think I have covered everything in the interview except the last thing, and that is very, very important, and that is thank people. As you walk in there, the first thing out of your mouth should be, thank you very much for your time, thank you so much for inviting me. And as you walk out of that interview, say that again. Thank you very much for your time, thank you very much for inviting me. All of what I said applies to you whether you are doing an interview in person or on Zoom or even a telephone interview where you cannot be seen. Now you might say, well, if I'm doing a telephone interview where I can't even be seen, why must I dress in a formal way? Because that will show up in the tone of your voice. Seriousness is something which shows up in the tone of your voice. I don't have to dress like this to do this interview, to do this talk, to help you guys. I do that because it is important for me. I'm doing that to show my respect to you, and I'm doing that because it's important for me to do this job well, and therefore if I dress properly for it, then I give it the kind of seriousness that it deserves. All that remains now is for me to wish you all the very best. I hope you get the best jobs in the world. I hope you do brilliantly at them. I hope you go out there and you change this world. Because believe me, this world needs changing. This world needs changing like a baby's nappy needs changing. And for the same reason, it stinks. So go out there and change this world. All the very best to you, and thank you for your time to listen to me. I am very happy to answer any questions. You can post the questions in this video, or you can send the questions to us at admin@mhmic.org. Just post it there. So I look forward to hearing from you. I am also going to post in the description of this video my article on writing CVs. It's called CV See Me, CV See Me, which I strongly recommend that you read that article and you also do your CV the way I have explained in that article, and then you listen to this talk on how to attend an interview. All the very best, and thank you once again.